Often we understand prudence or wisdom to simply be the ability to make good choices or decisions. Often it's also considered less of a compulsion to bravery or honor, as it is perhaps an excuse to not take risks or not put one's neck out in the line. Make good choices, when you get told to make good choices, sometimes that can be misunderstood as don't make your own choices, make my choices. To get a perspective on how our culture sort of understands prudence, you don't have to look any farther than John Lennon. The Beatles song Dear Prudence is all about a person who shuts themselves in to find some sort of unfulfilling safety by never confronting the world.
Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play? Dear Prudence, greet the brand new day.
You could also call this being sheltered. That's the way a lot of people put this. Someone prudent is often thought to avoid rather than confront, and very nearly can be considered a coward. This isn't prudence or wisdom at all. Prudence as a virtue has a much more robust definition than our society has decided to apply to it. Prudence is actually the perfected ability to make good choices, a bent towards goodness, an action that's in line with truth and reality. Basically, to be prudent is to know what is right and let what is right inform you in every situation. A person is prudent when their decision making is drawn first and foremost towards the ethical choice, when you feel compelled towards the good. You don't make decisions based on only what benefits you, but what is the moral thing to do. This obviously requires a few things of us. The first is to understand that there is actually truth. There is actually right and wrong. It's necessary to understand the universal principles of right and wrong to act in an ethical way. This isn't hard, but it does require us to consider deeply what you believe to be right and wrong. We can have no other guidance than the way things actually are, and to try to reinvent reality to conform to a standard that we want is not only imprudent, but it's actually cowardly. C.S. Lewis talks about how the natural law is embedded in the human heart. To this point, he mentions how we often perceive things not only to be right and wrong, but also to be fair and unfair. We've obviously all had situations where we felt like we were treated unfairly. For instance, I couldn't coast off of your work on a group project and claim that I don't accept your standard when you say I acted unfairly, or that I made you do all the work, that I slacked off. Both you and I know that this is an immoral way to treat each other. C.S. Lewis says that this idea of things being fair and unfair is inevitably going to lead us towards the universal standard of right and wrong. When we establish that right and wrong actually exist, we can, as long as we approach our situations with clear memory and willingness to learn, develop an ability called soleteria, which is confronting a situation and deciding for the good and right choice without giving in to our own fears or our own selfishness or our own insecurities. Basically, soleteria is habitual wisdom. This also allows us to not only deal with our present situations, but evaluate how we'll behave in future situations. What is the right thing to do if you find yourself in a situation where you have to maybe put your life on the line? Or maybe if you find yourself in a situation where you have to stand up for people who are being somehow oppressed. The heroes who saved many people in the Holocaust would come to mind as an example of this. Prudence is equipping ourselves with the means by which we will make good and moral choices, and that way we set ourselves up for a more enriched life by making decisions that we know to be moral and correct and fulfilling. That's the way we're fulfilled in our decision making. Prudence doesn't keep us locked in, but it clears the way for us to act rightly. It's a foundational virtue, and one that if we practice doesn't only help moment-to-moment decisions, but it opens the doors and opens our eyes to what is right. Look around, because prudence aligns us with the truth. It aligns us with reality. And as is said, the truth will set you free. Apologies to the Beatles.